He only came home early because the board meeting got cancelled. But when he opened that kitchen door, everything stopped. The floors were soaked, his twins were drenched, and the black maid was under the sink, smiling, as they called her, Mommy. That single word pierced deeper than a bullet, and in that exact second, the billionaire made a decision that shocked everyone. Nicholas Wilkins wasn't known for surprises. In fact, at 42 years old, he'd built his billion-dollar empire on predictability. Sharp suits, sharper deals, ice in his veins and gold in his pockets. His days were scripted, meetings, calls, numbers, silence, and his mansion, Ohala Castle in upstate New York, a fortress so grand it could swallow a city block. But inside, it was hollow. No laughter, no warmth, just glass, steel, and stillness. He didn't come home for the twins' bath time. He didn't do birthdays. He sent gifts from overseas, assistant-signed cards, occasional video calls. He loved them, but from a distance, behind deadlines and dividends. But that Wednesday afternoon, something shifted. His final board meeting was cancelled. The driver offered to swing him by a client's estate, but Nicholas shook his head. "Take me home." And just like that, for the first time in months, he walked into Ohala Castle before sunset. Meanwhile, in the very heart of that castle, Anna Patterson didn't mean to cause trouble. She'd only meant to run a little water. The sink had been acting up for days, dripping, clanking, vibrating like it had a secret. And she'd reported it. Twice. Maybe 3 times. But the house manager shrugged it off. "Not your job to fix, Anna. Just clean around it." But Anna was never good at just doing her job, not when 2 little voices kept calling her name. "Miss Anna, it's raining under the sink. Miss Anna, can we help?" So she rolled up her sleeves, tied back her curls, grabbed a wrench that was probably too small, and turned off the water valve. At least she thought she did, because 10 seconds later, chaos. The pipe burst like a geyser. Cold water hit the marble floor and spread like wildfire. The twins squealed with joy, thinking it was a game. Anna screamed, half in panic, half in laughter. "You two get back, I said back. This is not a slip and slide." But they didn't listen. They handed her plastic toy tools. They asked if she was Superwoman. They offered to fix the boo-boo pipe. And somehow, in that mess, under that sink, in soaked clothes and giggling chaos, Anna found herself laughing harder than she had in years. Then came the moment. The door creaked open. Leather shoes touched soaked marble. Silence. She didn't turn around. Not immediately. But the twins did. "Daddy, look, Mommy's fixing the sink." And in that moment, Anna froze. Because behind her stood Nicholas Wilkins, still in his navy suit, still the picture of control. But his face, unreadable. His eyes moved from the twins to the flood, to Anna still kneeling under the sink, wrench in hand, and finally, to the twins, calling her Mommy. Everything in the room went still. The dripping slowed. The twins smiled wide, proud of their new family discovery. And Nicholas, he didn't yell, he didn't scold, he didn't ask questions. He just looked, as if the pieces were falling into place. And all this time, someone else had been raising his children, emotionally, completely, beautifully. And for the first time in years, he felt something crack inside. Not anger, not betrayal. Something softer, something he hadn't felt since his wife left him 3 years ago. Something like shame. How long has this been happening? When did they start calling her that? Why didn't I know? And while you're watching this unfold, ask yourself, if your own child called someone else Mommy or Daddy, would you know why? And if this story already has you thinking, maybe don't just watch silently. Hit that subscribe button, because these are the stories that stay with you. And if you walk away without subscribing, that says more than you think. Back in the kitchen, Nicholas did something no one expected. He took off his blazer. He stepped into the water, and with 2 slow blinks, knelt beside Anna. Not a word, just a breath, just silence, and 2 soaked twins climbing into his lap, still laughing. Nicholas Wilkins sat there, drenched in cold water, in the middle of his multi-million-dollar kitchen. This wasn't a boardroom. This wasn't a deal. This was chaos. Marble floors soaked, cabinets dripping, his Italian shoes ruined. But none of it mattered, because for the first time in years, he wasn't alone in this house. His twins, Emma and Eli, giggled in his lap, their tiny clothes clinging to their skin. And across from him, kneeling with damp curls clinging to her forehead, was Anna Patterson, the maid, but not just. "It was just a small leak at first," she said quietly, breaking the silence. "I didn't mean for it to turn into this." Nicholas didn't respond right away. He couldn't. He just stared at her, not with anger, not even confusion, with something much harder to process. Recognition. Anna stood, grabbing a towel and patting one of the twins' heads. "Come on, babies. Let's get you out of these wet clothes. You'll catch a cold." She moved with ease, confident, maternal. Nicholas noticed how Emma clung to her, not him, how Eli reached for her hand, not his. And then came that word again, so casually spoken, yet so violently powerful. "Mommy, can we go watch cartoons after?" Anna froze. Her eyes shot toward Nicholas, apologetic. I never told them to call me that. It just started one day and I didn't have the heart to correct them." Nicholas stayed quiet. He looked at his children, how happy they were, how normal they looked for once, and how little he knew about their world. He'd hired Anna after a long, tedious interview process. She was kind, clean, had glowing references, and a warm presence. Good with kids, the agency said. But he never asked about her life, never looked beyond the resume. Now here she was, not just good with kids, but holding together the only real family his children had known. "How long has this been going on?" he asked finally. Anna looked down. "They started calling me that 6 months ago. I tried to make it stop, but they were just so persistent. They miss her, their mother." The air thickened. For the first time someone said it out loud. His wife, gone for 3 years, chose a different life, left him with 2 babies and a mansion full of silence. And now a stranger, a maid, had filled the void so well, his children didn't even need to remember who their real mother was. "I understand if this changes things," Anna said softly. "If you want me to leave." Nicholas blinked. Leave. He should have been angry. He should have fired her on the spot. He was Nicholas Wilkins, a man who ran companies with military precision, who built skyscrapers and turned bankrupt firms into billion-dollar brands. But at that moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was a flooded kitchen, 2 giggling toddlers, and a black woman kneeling under his sink, who somehow held his broken family together better than he ever could. "No," he said finally, his voice barely a whisper. "You're not leaving." Anna raised her eyes, stunned. "Sir?" "You're not leaving," he repeated. You fixed something bigger than that pipe today." She looked at him, carefully, cautiously. This wasn't the Nicholas she knew. This wasn't the cold, distant man who barely made eye contact and only spoke in clipped instructions. This man looked human, maybe even hurting. The twins ran back in, wrapped in dry towels. "Can Mommy tuck us in?" Emma asked, smiling. "Mommy, can we show you our drawing?" Eli chimed in. Nicholas swallowed hard. Anna knelt again and hugged them. "Of course, baby. I'll be right up." And then she looked at Nicholas again. "I'll make sure they're in bed early, don't worry." He didn't answer, just nodded slowly. But as she walked past him, he turned slightly and said something almost too soft to hear. "Thank you for being there when I wasn't." Anna paused in the hallway. Just for a moment, and for the first time, she saw him. Not the billionaire, not the boss, just the man. And her heart did something it hadn't done in a long time. It cracked. Right now, what do you think Nicholas should do? Should he fight to reclaim his role as a father? Or step aside and let Anna be the parent his kids clearly adore? Drop your answer in the comments. Because this is the kind of love story money can't buy.
That night Nicholas stood in the hallway outside his twins' room. He heard soft laughter, Anna's voice reading bedtime stories, tiny giggles, and in the hallway, alone, he leaned against the wall and exhaled. Maybe, just maybe, he'd been running from more than just grief all this time. Maybe he'd been running from connection. And now it had walked right into his kitchen, barefoot, brave, and fixing a broken pipe.
The next morning, the sun hit Ohela Castle like a spotlight. The storm from the night before had passed, and the staff moved around briskly, mopping the kitchen floor, checking the water valves, repairing the sink. But the house still felt different. Something had shifted, not just in the pipes, in the air. Nicholas sat in his office overlooking the sprawling lawns, coffee untouched, tie loosened. He hadn't even opened his laptop. He kept replaying it in his mind. That image burned into him like a scar. Anna soaked and smiling under the sink. His children calling her Mommy. The way she'd said, "You fixed something bigger than the pipe." Was this weakness? Was he slipping? Or was he finally waking up? He shook his head, snapping out of it. This was ridiculous. She was the maid. He was the employer. There were lines, and they were not meant to blur, no matter how warm she was, how the twins adored her, or how hollow the mansion felt without her voice in it. Downstairs, Anna stood in the laundry room folding towels. She too was in her head. "You almost cried last night," she scolded herself silently. "Cried because a billionaire looked at you like you mattered. Don't be foolish. He's your boss, that's all." But even as she folded clothes, her hands slowed. She could still feel the weight of his silence the night before, the way he had thanked her, softly, brokenly. That wasn't just gratitude, that was something else, something dangerous. Later that day, Anna tried to keep busy. The twins were napping, the kitchen was quiet, and the sink had been fixed. By professionals this time. But the house was too still. She walked past the study. He was in there. The door was open just enough for her to see him, jacket off, sleeves rolled, staring out the window like a man trying to solve something deeper than spreadsheets. He noticed her. She looked away, but it was too late. He stood. "Anna." She paused, then stepped inside slowly. "Yes, sir." "You don't have to call me that." She blinked. "Call you what?" "Sir." A pause. "Okay. Nicholas." It felt strange in her mouth, like tasting something forbidden, sweet and unfamiliar. "I just wanted to say," he began, then hesitated. "I know yesterday was unusual. I appreciate you holding it together." "They needed someone to hold it together," she said, her voice calm. "It just happened to be me." Silence. Their eyes met. Too long. Too much. "You're more than just anything, Anna," he said quietly. And that's when she panicked. "Mr. Wilkins, Nicholas, I really should get back to the laundry." She turned before he could say anything more. And just like that, the emotional spark they'd shared the night before was stuffed back into a box, tightly. Later that evening, she avoided eye contact, kept her distance. The twins noticed. "Why didn't Mommy eat dinner with us tonight?" Emma asked. "Yeah," Eli frowned. "She always cuts the crust off our toast." Nicholas said nothing. He just stared down at his glass. He'd tried to explain it away, tried to convince himself he'd overreacted yesterday, that it wasn't as deep as it felt. But the silence at dinner, the absence of her laughter, it all made one thing clear. He could ignore the feelings, but he could no longer escape them. The sky over Ohela Castle turned dark again the next day, not from emotion this time, but a literal storm system rolling in from the east. One of those classic New York downpours that drenches everything, blurs vision, and makes leaving the house a bad idea. The weather app called it a severe weather advisory. Anna called it a sign. Nicholas had a charity gala that evening in Manhattan. Tux rented, speech written, driver ready. But by 5:30 p.m. the roads were closing down, bridges were clogged, power flickered once. His assistant texted, "Gala postponed. You'll be safer at home tonight, sir." And just like that, he was trapped. In a castle with 4 wings, 23 rooms, and one woman he was trying not to think about. Downstairs, Anna was already preparing a quiet dinner for the twins. Thunder rumbled. Rain slammed the windows. The twins, afraid of lightning, begged her to stay close. "Can we all eat in the living room?" Emma asked. "It's warmer there." "With cartoons," Eli added. She hesitated. They were only supposed to eat in the kitchen or the formal dining room, but then again, it was storming, and Nicholas probably wouldn't. "That's fine." The voice behind her startled her. She turned. Nicholas stood at the entry, sleeves rolled, blazer off, relaxed, but alert. "I was thinking the same thing," he said. "We could all use some comfort tonight." And just like that, the four of them sat together in the massive living room, twins tucked under fuzzy blankets, cartoons flickering on the screen, rain tapping against the glass. Nicholas on the couch, Anna on the floor beside the twins helping them eat, wipe ketchup off their cheeks, sip water without spilling. He watched her, silently, how she mothered them without trying, how the children leaned into her warmth like sunflowers to sunlight. He didn't belong in this picture, not yet, but he wanted to. After dinner, the kids asked for a story. "Mommy reads better," Eli insisted. "Can she read tonight, Daddy?" Emma pleaded. Nicholas nodded. "Only if she wants to." Anna looked up. There was something in his voice, not command, but request, respect. She pulled a storybook from the shelf, settled between the twins, and began reading. Nicholas didn't leave. He sat, watching them, listening. And somewhere between page 7 and 8, he smiled. When the twins finally drifted off, Anna rose carefully. "I'll carry them upstairs." Nicholas stood. "Let me." She looked at him, surprised. She hadn't seen him carry them since... ever. But he stepped forward gently, lifting Emma first, then Eli, one in each arm, like he'd rehearsed this in dreams. She followed behind as he climbed the stairs, the sound of thunder echoing in the halls. Once the twins were tucked in, she turned to leave, but he stopped her. "Anna, stay for a moment?" She froze in the hallway. Everything in her said she should say no, but her feet didn't move. So she stayed. They stood near the landing, soft light around them, rain still pouring outside. "I'm not good at this," Nicholas began. "I don't know how to be the kind of father they need, or the kind of man who eats on the couch and tells bedtime stories." Anna smiled softly. "They don't need perfect. They need present. And tonight, you were." He exhaled. "I see the way they love you." "I never tried to replace her," she said gently. "I only stepped in where there was silence." That line hit him like a confession. "I know," he said, "and I'm grateful in more than you know." There was a pause, a long one. Then something changed. He looked at her, not as the maid, not as the help, but as a woman who had stepped into his children's lives, and now, whether he liked it or not, into his. But Anna took a step back. "We should both get some rest." "Of course. Good night, Nicholas." "Good night, Anna." Their eyes locked one last time. No touches, no lines crossed. But something had undeniably shifted. It was just after 1 a.m. when Nicholas found himself standing in front of the nursery door again. The twins were asleep. The house was silent. The storm had passed. But his mind hadn't. The image of Anna reading to his children, holding their tiny hands, brushing back their curls, it replayed over and over. She stepped in where there was silence. That line haunted him, because deep down, he knew she wasn't just talking about the kids. She was talking about him too. He walked to the kitchen for water, but as he passed the back corridor, he saw light, soft, flickering. Candlelight? He turned the corner slowly, and there she was, Anna, in the small staff chapel near the back of the estate, a room barely used unless someone was grieving. She sat in the front row, her head bowed, a candle lit in front of her. Her lips moved silently. Prayer, maybe, or memories. He didn't mean to stare. But she looked beautiful in that moment, not dressed up, not styled, just honest. And then she noticed him. She wiped her cheek quickly, but not before he saw the tears. "Sorry," she whispered. "Didn't mean to take up the space." "It's your home too," he replied gently. "It's not," she said, not bitterly, just honestly. "But thank you." A pause. Then Nicholas stepped forward, cautiously. "You come here often?" She nodded. "When the house sleeps, I talk to the people who can't answer." He looked at the candle. "Who are you talking to tonight?" She took a breath. Then, quietly, "My son." Nicholas froze. You have a son?" Anna nodded slowly. "Had." And the air shifted. Suddenly the kitchen flood, the cartoons, the giggling twins, it all looked different through this new lens. "He was 2 years old," she continued. "His name was Josiah, bright smile, loved trucks, died from a fever that hit too fast, too hard. The hospital was 3 buses away. We didn't make it." Nicholas sat beside her, stunned into silence. "I lost everything after that," she whispered. "The grief swallowed me. I couldn't go back to work, couldn't look at his toys, couldn't look at the sun." How did you end up here?" he asked quietly. "A friend forced me to apply for a job. Said I needed structure. I didn't even know it was your estate when I walked through the gates. But then, you're twins." They smiled at me. Emma grabbed my hand. Eli gave me a sticker. She smiled softly at the memory. And just like that, something woke up again, like Josiah sent them to me. To love. Nicholas leaned forward, elbows on his knees. He felt small. All this time, he thought he was the one with wounds, abandoned by a wife, overwhelmed by parenthood, buried in work. But this woman, she had known real loss, and yet she was the one holding everyone else together. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Don't be," she replied. "I don't tell people to get pity. I tell them so they understand why I hold on so tight, and why sometimes I pull away." Nicholas nodded, and then, after a long pause, "You know, I wasn't there when the twins were born." She looked over. "Their mother went into labor while I was in Tokyo. I missed the call, missed the flight. By the time I got back and the pictures had already been framed, I was in none of them." He laughed bitterly. "And it never got better. She wanted a partner. I gave her a schedule. She wanted a man. I gave her a calendar. Eventually she left. Not just me, them too." Silence settled between them like a blanket. "We're both haunted," Anna whispered. "Yes," Nicholas said. "But I think we've both been keeping our ghosts company alone for too long." She looked at him. Their eyes met. And this time, there was no fear, only understanding. Can 2 broken people ever build something whole, together? Have you ever met someone who healed you in places you didn't even know were wounded? If this story is touching your soul, please, don't just watch, hit subscribe. Because stories like this don't just entertain. They remind us we're human. And maybe you needed that tonight. The following morning, sunlight broke through the storm-streaked windows of Ohala Castle. Nicholas hadn't slept much. He kept thinking about Anna in that chapel, her son, her strength, her eyes red but clear. She hadn't asked for his comfort. She hadn't needed his pity. She simply allowed him to see her, and now he couldn't look away. Downstairs, the twins were already in full motion, drawing on the breakfast napkins, building towers from cereal boxes. The housekeeper offered to take over, but Anna waved her off gently. They're calmest when they can just be. No rush. She said it like someone who'd learned to value the quiet, not just the routine. Nicholas watched her from the kitchen doorway. Still barefoot, still tired, but smiling. There was a softness to the morning, the kind of stillness most billionaires never experience. He stepped inside. "Did you eat?" She looked up, surprised. "I was just about to grab something." "No," he said, walking past her. "Sit. I'll make you something." She actually laughed. "You cook?" "I survive." 10 minutes later, They sat across from each other with 2 steaming bowls of soup. Yes, soup. At 8:30 a.m. "You're serious," she said, spoon in hand. "It's tomato basil," he replied, feigning pride. "Or something close to it." She took a sip, paused. "You added too much cream." "I was trying to be fancy." She laughed again, genuinely this time. Not a polite laugh, not a guarded one, the kind of laugh that makes a man look up and forget everything else. After breakfast, they brought the twins outside to the garden. The rain had left puddles and mist, but the air was fresh, healing. Emma and Eli ran through the grass barefoot, chasing dragonflies. Anna leaned on the porch rail. Nicholas stood beside her, hands in his pockets. "I forgot they even had this much energy," he said. "They're your kids," she replied. "They just needed someone to see them." "They had you," he said softly. That made all the difference. Anna looked over at him. Her smile faded, just a little, replaced with something quieter, more intimate. "You're seeing them now, Nicholas. That matters more than you know." They stood in silence, watching the twins spin and tumble in the wet grass. And then Nicholas said it, the thing he'd been wanting to ask, but hadn't dared. "Do you ever think maybe Josiah would have loved them too?" Anna turned slowly. The wind played with her curls. "All the time," she said. "I think he would have protected them, laughed with them. I think they would have brought him peace." Nicholas took a slow breath. "I think he's doing that now, through you." She blinked, hard, then looked away. But not before he saw it, a tear, a real one. Later that day, the twins asked to bake cookies. Anna rolled up their sleeves, tied aprons around their waists, and turned the kitchen into a flower-covered battlefield. Nicholas tried to help. Poorly. "You're not folding the dough," Anna said, laughing. "You're strangling it." "I'm aggressively passionate." They laughed. So did the kids. It felt normal, like something they'd done 100 times before, only they hadn't. By the time the cookies were cooling, the twins were passed out on the couch in sugar comas, and Nicholas and Anna were left with the mess. They stood side by side, washing dishes in companionable silence. "You know," Nicholas said, his voice lower now, "for the first time in years, this place doesn't feel like a museum." Anna handed him a dripping mixing bowl. "Because it's not about what fills the room," she said. "It's about who's in it." Later, he walked her to the staff quarters, something he'd never done. At the door, there was a moment. Too long. Too quiet. "Good night," she said softly. "Anna." She turned. He looked at her like someone remembering how to feel. "I'm glad you're here." A pause. Then she smiled. "So am I." And for just 1 second, it almost felt like he might kiss her. But he didn't. He just watched her close the door. It had been 5 days since the storm, 5 days since shared soup, soft smiles and silent connections. The twins were happier than ever. Nicholas had even started taking calls from home, choosing to stay close. Anna, meanwhile, moved through the house lighter, freer. She'd begun to feel like she belonged, not just in the twins' world, but maybe in Nicholas's too. But peace is a fragile thing, and healing doesn't come without confrontation. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. Nicholas had invited a few board members over for an impromptu garden brunch, something light, casual. Anna wasn't scheduled to be present, but the twins, excited by the event, dragged her out to the yard with them anyway, hands sticky with jam and mouths full of muffins. "Come with us, Mommy. Come see the ducks." And she had followed, apron still tied, curls wild, eyes shining, until she heard it, until she heard her name. "Isn't that the Maid?" one of the guests whispered, just loud enough. "Yes, I think so." "The black one? What's she doing out here like she's family?" Another voice chuckled. "Nicholas always did like charity cases." The laughter stung. Anna froze. And then Nicholas turned. He was close enough to hear it. She knew he was. And yet he said nothing. No correction, no defense, no acknowledgement. He just stood there, stiff, silent, embarrassed. Their eyes met across the table. His were unreadable. Hers were burning. She turned quietly and walked back into the house. The twins followed, confused. Nicholas didn't move. An hour passed, the guests left, and Nicholas found her in the laundry room, folding sheets with robotic precision. "Anna, don't," she said sharply. "Not unless you came to explain why you stood there and let them talk about me like I'm less." He sighed, stepped inside. It was a business brunch. They were drunk, stupid. "And what were you?" she snapped, voice cracking. "Mute." Nicholas stepped back, taken aback. "It's not that simple." "It is," she said, folding another towel. "You were embarrassed. Of me, of your kids calling me mommy, of your heart getting attached to a woman like me." He opened his mouth, closed it. "I'm not your equal," she said, fire rising now. "I get that, you live in glass towers. I wash dishes and fix pipes. Anna, that's not what this is." "Then what is it, Nicholas?" she snapped. "Because from where I'm standing I let myself believe I mattered." He looked down. "You do." "Then why didn't you say it?" she whispered. A silence stretched between them. "Because I was afraid," he finally said. "Afraid of what it means to need someone. To love someone I could lose." Her breath caught. That word, love, said so quietly. It almost didn't make it into the room, but it was too late. The damage was done. "I can't be your secret," she said softly. "I've lost enough already. I won't love in the dark." Nicholas looked at her like a man drowning in his own silence. But he didn't move, didn't reach for her, didn't fight. And Anna had walked away. That night, dinner was quiet. The twins sensed something was off. "Where's Mommy?" Emma asked. "She's tired," Nicholas replied. "Is she mad?" Eli frowned. Nicholas didn't answer, and for the first time in weeks, the kitchen felt cold again. The next morning was unusually quiet. The sun rose over Ohila Castle, but it didn't feel warm. It felt distant, like light passing through a memory. Anna was up early. She packed slowly, silently. She didn't slam drawers or let the children hear her tears. She just folded her uniforms, placed her son's tiny photo carefully between two t-shirts, and zipped the bag. She left her name tag on the dresser, not because she forgot it, but because she didn't need it anymore. She wasn't just the maid. She wasn't anyone's secret. Not anymore. Upstairs, Nicholas sat in the nursery, alone. The twins were already at preschool. The nanny had taken over for the morning, but he couldn't move. He just stared at the little plastic stool Anna used when she read bedtime stories. And he remembered it all. Her laughter in the kitchen, the way she carried his daughter with one arm and a grocery bag in the other, the smell of cookies, the feel of her hand brushing his sleeve when she passed him a bowl of soup. He could still hear her voice echoing in the hallway. "I won't love in the dark." And the shame of it landed again, like bricks on his chest. He had stayed silent. He had stood there while men laughed at the woman who had mothered his children. Not because she was wrong, but because he was too afraid to be seen needing her. And now, she was gone. Downstairs, the housekeeper knocked lightly on his door. "Sir, she left a note." He took it with shaking hands. It was short. So short. "Nicholas, thank you for letting me love them. Thank you for seeing me, even if only for a moment. Please tell Emma and Eli that I will always be proud of them, and that Mommy will always be real, even if I'm not there. Take care of them. Don't let the silence return. Anna." He didn't realize he'd sat down until his knees gave out. And then came the knock. She stood at the gate, her suitcase beside her. The driver waited, engine running. She looked back once at the estate, at the window where the twins used to wave, at the nursery light still on, at the castle that had once felt like nothing and had become everything. "Don't cry," she whispered to herself. "You made the right decision." She almost believed it. He was in his study now, phone in hand. He opened the twins' latest drawing from preschool, a crooked stick figure labelled Mommy, and 2 smiling kids underneath. No mention of Daddy, not Nicholas, just Mommy. He put the drawing down, picked up the phone, called his assistant. "Cancel everything today." "Sir, but the investor..." "Everything. Reschedule. I need to fix something more important." She's in the car now, looking forward, not crying, but her heart is screaming. Then, her phone buzzes. One new voicemail. She hesitates, then plays it. "Anna, I don't know how to say this right, so I'm just going to say it. I failed. Not just yesterday. I failed the moment I made you feel like you didn't belong here, like what we had, what we built, wasn't real. But it was. It still is. I love you, Anna Patterson, not in secret, not in shame. I love you out loud, and I'm going to prove it to you." Click. He walks through the estate, not like a man going to war, but like a man coming home for the first time. He heads straight to the twins' school. The driver glances back. "Mom, should we go?" She stares out the window. The engine hums. The gate is slowly opening. "And yet..." "Stop," she says. "What?" "I'm not leaving." She opens the car door, walks out, and runs. He walks into the classroom. Emma looks up. "Daddy?" He kneels. "Hi, baby." "Where's Mommy?" His heart tightens. She had to go. But I'm going to bring her back. I promise." "She's our Mommy," Eli says. "You can't lose her." Nicholas nods. "I know. I won't." Anna stood at the edge of the estate. The wind tugged gently at her jacket. The same path she had walked 100 times now looked like a question mark. She had almost left. Almost disappeared from their lives, the twins, the laughter, the warmth, because she believed she didn't belong. But now, Nicholas's voice echoed in her mind. "I love you. Not in secret, not in shame." It wasn't flowers. It wasn't poetry. It was truth. And sometimes, truth is the most romantic thing of all. Nicholas arrived at the estate just as the sun began to set. Arms full of twin drawings, a small gift bag, and a racing heart. He didn't know if she'd still be there. He didn't know if she'd ever come back, but he was ready to fight. When he walked into the foyer, the silence hit him first. The castle was still. No twins, no flower-covered aprons, no Anna singing Twinkle, Twinkle in the background. Too late? Then a sound, a cough, a small laugh, the sound of 2 children, and her. He turned the corner, and there they were. Anna, sitting on the floor of the reading nook. Emma curled under her arm, Eli drawing stars on her jeans with a crayon. She looked up, saw him, and froze. "I went to the school," he said, "to talk to them, to explain everything." "I know," she said softly. "They told me." A pause. "I wasn't expecting you to come back," he added. "I wasn't expecting to stay," she admitted. "But you did, and you did too." He stepped forward, slowly, then knelt beside her. Eli and Emma looked up, smiling like this was just another bedtime story. Nicholas reached into the bag, pulled out 2 items. First, a photo frame. Inside, a drawing the twins had made, all 4 of them together. Nicholas, Anna, Emma, Eli. At the top, scrawled in crayon, "Our family." Anna's breath caught. "I asked the school to help them make this," Nicholas said, "because I realized we already are a family. I was just the last one to admit it." Then he pulled out the second item, a small velvet box. Anna stared wide-eyed. "Nicholas, it's not what you think," he interrupted gently. "It's not a proposal. Not yet. It's a promise." He opened it. Inside, a delicate silver bracelet, etched with the word, "Mommy." "You earned this," he said, "not because of a title, but because of love." Anna was silent, eyes full. "You fixed the sink," he continued, smiling. "But more than that, you fixed us, me, the silence, the cold, all of it." She didn't answer. She just reached out and took his hand. The next week, Anna didn't just stay. She moved in, not to the staff quarters, but into the heart of the home. The twins didn't ask questions, they just smiled more. Nicholas introduced her at a gala later that month. "This is Anna Patterson," he told the board members, "the woman who saved my family." They looked at each other, blinked, whispered, and for the first time, Nicholas didn't care. He held her hand. He said her name with pride. He loved her out loud. On a rainy evening, much like the one when everything began, the four of them curled up in the same living room. The twins fell asleep first. Nicholas turned to Anna, brushing a curl behind her ear. "You still think you don't belong here?" She smiled. "No," she whispered. "Now I think I always did." And in the quiet, as thunder hummed softly in the distance, he kissed her. Not out of passion, but out of peace. Because some love stories don't begin with sparks. They begin with a leak under the sink, and a child calling you mommy. Do you believe love like this, slow, unexpected, healing, still exists in the real world? If this story made you feel something, don't just scroll. Subscribe. Because every week, we tell stories like this, stories that remind us we all deserve to be seen, loved, and chosen. And maybe, just maybe, you needed that today.